break us out of the range. Looked like it was gonna. All the while, we sort of ended up right back in this abyss, which is sort of 62, 63 is really the top end of this range, and I'm doing the rectangle sort of for a reason here. So look where we stopped. We stopped sort of right at the top of this range here at from last Tuesday, last Wednesday, that area in here, and we held it perfectly. And so, I mean, when you look at your charts, always zoom out to really see what's going on, because this is a 1 hour chart here. We have been from 62 down to 32 to 36 was, I think, the area I mentioned earlier. And overnight, last night, I'm not even going to mention the overnight because I'm looking at my Renko chart, and we had 4 Renko bars, which, and for you guys that don't know how Renko works, you only get a new bar when your price gets sort of above and below your previous ranges. So there was no movement. There was no price movement. You know, we were sort of pit-puttering around in a 6-7 point range. Now we have PPI that should have broken us out below here. Hot print, you know, it sort of, that should have been the breakout below to maybe go back and trade this range from last Tuesday, Wednesday. Now, the fact that we came right back and came back in this range with PP or CPI tomorrow, unless you see a forceful break below 32 and then I think 24, 25, I can't remember what the spread is right now. Spread is 22, 23. That's what it's showing it should open at. So SPX 5200, I would put a big red line on SPX 5200 today, because that's going to be the spot where I just don't think we're going to get below it. We might tuck below it and revisit this 5216. We could come off here on you know, this 45. Let me go to a smaller time frame to show it. So this 44 to 46. Okay, so last Thursday, volume point of control 52.45. Or sorry, that was last Friday. Then yesterday, volume point of control was 52.45. And now so far this morning, we got 52.43. So that's sort of why I was looking at a short there. It didn't work out, and I probably should have been a little more patient and waited for 45, 46 area because of these volume points of control. But you can see that this is sort of the monkey in the middle now, because that top end of that range is 62, 63. Bottom end of the range is 32 to 36. And now this 45 is sort of that volume point of control for the last 3 days, and we're the monkey in the middle. We're back here again into the sort of abyss of no man's land. So I can't foresee us, after retracing that far with CPI looming tomorrow, that we are going to go down and revisit this area from last Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I just don't see it. I guess it could happen, but you've got a lot of congestion in this area that we would need to get below too. My lean would be to continue this range bound crap until tomorrow, and then who knows, we could even continue it after tomorrow. But zooming out really helps with perspective here. Seeing that 1, 2, this is the third day of our volume point of control being within the same 3 points. So until we really make a stand and go lower or higher, play this fringe. I mean, 62, 63, and I mean now 32, 36 on the downside. I mean, that can be your range, and then you've got this big wick down to 16. So not all that excited about today. I'm going to sort of watch these meme stocks and keep myself with something to watch at least. Not really interested in participating necessarily, unless we see some maybe 1 or 2 down halts. I might be interested in taking a speculative long to see if sort of they screw over eager bears that were trying to short it. So really that's what I'm watching here. Yeah, I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. All right. Not a whole lot to add. As I mentioned in the chat this morning, I was expecting, some bearish activity, and the print that came through kind of confirmed, with a hot PPI. But they, thus far bought the dip. Here we go. And I think, Dan, you said that level came down to a vol trigger.
Yeah, it nailed the volatility trigger, which would have been the equivalent of SPX 5195.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. That was actually a S2 pivot also. So that was kind of a confluential level that it hit. And now we're kind of back in this range, like Dan said.
I normally 9 out of 10 times I'm gonna be trading off of that volatility trigger, solely because it was the print. I did not, but normally 9 out of 10 times I'm taking a trade off that volatility trigger.
And
That's normally a really good spot because it's sort of it just tends to be very supportive or a lot of resistance. So
yeah. So again, those key levels, especially on SPX, we've come down and hit this 52.10 yesterday. That could be a level to watch, and then obviously 5200 below. So the range definitely opened up a little bit with that little move down, but so far looks like they're gonna buy it up.
Especially now you've got bonds ripping. So I actually am sort of leaning that this wants to go a little higher, watching small caps and bonds.
Yeah, and the weekly pivot, mid pivot here on this yellow line is where we just rejected 52.47.50. So that would be a key level I would watch, sort of an over under. If we get over it and it remains supportive, then I would definitely agree and be leaning alongside. If we keep rejecting off of it, then you can probably take a short there. That's kind of, I'm still short a couple runners here from 45 area, and I'll stop if we get over that. But
This isn't a bad area to be trying, but it is sort of in that middle, and there's some signs out there that we might try and test higher. But Nvidia's down $5 on the day still.
Yep. And again, we talked about Nvidia a few times. It's been in this really tight consolidation now since last Monday, so over a week. And these are the kind of the levels that we talked about yesterday: the 905, 911, 922 that we got to get over. But that's pretty much range bound. If we flip back over here, You can kind of see we have a little resistance up here at 53, about 10 points higher than now, and then these wicks that were the top of the range that Dan was talking about, the 64 area. So that's the key for upside breakout, and then I'd be targeting this 5290, which kind of completes that pattern. I mentioned that we already actually completed it on SPY. We came up to the target here at 521.50. So it's kind of it's a difficult spot to really know which way we're going to go. Maybe we're going to grind around until CPI tomorrow. But after the reaction today, who knows?
I mean, if flip to UB, UB is breaking out. Sort of, if you go to like a 30-minute chart, you've sort of got some congestion here in this 123, 10 to 15 area. But over 123.16, I mean, you can really go another buck.
Yeah. Let's flip to the hourly. Yeah, there's definitely room on that.
I mean, 123.16 is pretty big on it, so I can see it rejecting that momentarily here. But if bonds are supportive, small caps are going to be strong, and that's going to sort of be a tailwind to push us back to the top of the range.
For sure. Yeah, it looks like we're coming up to test here now. This could be a good spot to short with a stop over like 49 or 50. I'm not taking it, but if we get over it, then we're kind of flipping bias here if we get over this yellow line. So we'll watch this for a second. May as well whilst we're live. Let's flip down to a minute chart. See, now we just popped over it. And I actually just stopped on my runners there. So now we're really kind of back into this overnight range. And if we get over here, then it's game on for the bulls.
Yeah, I at this point, I tried to take that one stab short at 42. I'm going to watch for a while. I don't have any interest yet in playing a long or really a short. I think that this is a precarious spot for both.
Yeah, for sure.
I think this 52.50 area is a really scary spot for both bulls and bears alike, and the market could turn and go either way at this point. And I think what we talk about in the room all the time is waiting for high odds setups, and this is not one yet.
No. Let me go back here. So again, yeah, the 53.64 area, the kind of upside, the two areas I'd be watching, and then up at 52.90. I would have those levels kind of marked out. If we do get over this 53.50, we want to see it be supportive, and that could set up sort of a move up to the upside. I mentioned yesterday and many times, if we continue pushing up from here beyond the 52.90, then I pull this guy out. Let me see. Copy, paste. Here we go. So this harmonic structure here, when you take all of these measurements, it fits two different harmonics. This is the second one. And when we were down here and I was mentioning this seemed less likely because this calls for a 161.8 extension, and of course it can fail anywhere along the way. But all that does is it takes this D point all the way up here to 55.60. So when I say this, I was leaning bearish, it's because I was leaning towards this being the bearish bat pattern, which would complete here and then set up a down move. But this can keep going, you know. So I would just be aware of that. I'm not saying, take a position and wait for 55.60. I'm just letting you know to be aware that's something that could be in play. Not something that I was expecting, especially after this print, and I'm sure CPI is probably going to be hot too. So let's just kind of wait and see what happens and just be nimble.
And
Today.
something to note is also you've got ES and above highs from pre-market from prior to the print. You don't have NQ above print highs, or QQQ above pre-print highs. That could either, quite frankly, be bullish or bearish. It could mean that NQ and QQQ pulls us up higher,
right?
Or it could mean that NQ is on the weaker side and it could pull us lower. So again, it's a wait and see time right now, and we'll have to see what we do and get more information to make an educated trade that will pay us pretty good.
For sure. I'm just peeping at AMC, GME. They're coming up on their
I mean they're both still quite strong.
I have one June 40 call on GME, so that's going to be nice. I was also looking at Tesla, which has a decent looking setup for a long. Also, whether you call this sort of an inverted or even like a cup and handle. It definitely looks long. 176 is really key. You've got this resistance here at 175, and then 176 is a Fibonacci. If we can break over that, then we're probably headed up to that 184 area. So I'd watch that. If things break down below here, then I've been watching these downside numbers in this gap down here, but right now the chart's telling me along, so that's something to watch today. And there's not a whole lot else. NVIDIA I mentioned.
Bonds did reject 122.16 area for now.
Okay, I see that.
Which is something that I'm sort of stalking here to see if bonds reject. And I'm watching NVIDIA also. We could get a pretty decent leg sweep into the open here, which might be something that we look to buy, to be honest.
Yeah. It does appear that they want to buy the dip, so.
Yeah, and so that's sort of how I'm setting it up in my head is, okay, are they gonna, we've got bonds rejecting, we've got RTY rejecting an area here. Are they going to try and sweep the leg out to try and get it back to sort of that, I don't know, 32, 36 area, and that's where we'll start building higher, or just go back into the range? It could be either. And AMC's at the highs right now. It's about to be $13. Jesus Christ. I have actual stomach pit. I'm gonna need to go get some Tums with the amount of 5 calls I had yesterday. But
and Apple also is holding up nicely here for a breakout over 187. Let me see. Go to a daily chart.
Yeah, Apple still looks good.
there is a gap close. Closed this gap yesterday. So coming back up and over 187 would set up sort of the next leg up to around the 190s. So that's something to watch. But there is a gap below here also, huge gap down to 173. Yeah, so small caps are obviously, and junk's going to be sort of in the window to everyone's watching that. AMC, GME, and there's a bunch of other low float small caps.
It's gonna be on my screen. I mean, I'm not. I might be interested if we get a couple of halts. Like those sort of swift 2-3 halts in a row.
Right.
Sort of buying the third one.
Right.
That's sort of a something I might be interested in doing. We'll have to see. But turning out, I had high hopes for today.
I had high hopes on the short side. I really thought that this would keep going, but we so far have rejected. Let's just see kind of how this sets up. It's interesting when you have a narrative that sort of fits what you're expecting, and you get that rug pull, but it bounces right back up. So it kind of makes you question what they want to do with this. So we're not in control of the market. We just got to watch the reactions off of key levels, and that gives us clues as to where we're going. So just be nimble and wait for the right setups, play the edges, and that's about it.
Awesome.
All right, we'll see you in the chat.
See ya.